Welcome back to Speak. This podcast aims to address the needs of our communities by breaking down social barriers through education and activism and advocacy. I'm Phoenix, and I'm joined by my co-host Kalsum and our special guest today, Marcus. We hope that this conversation resonates with you and inspires you to continue these discussions both in this space and beyond.
Change is an act, a resource, and a guide to bettering not only our own lives, but those of our community as well. Today's topic is men's health, where we will discuss issues surrounding toxic masculinity, men's stereotypical expectations, and hopefully raise awareness on how we as students can create a meaningful impact towards supporting men's health.
Yeah, and men's mental health is often, overlooked and seen as a weakness. From a young age, for someone who identifies as male, it's seen as unmasculine to show emotion or even speak about mental health. And it's often seen as something that's wrong with that person if they seek help or just, cannot perform their responsibilities with ease, right? Although this notion is becoming more and more outdated, the resources for men aren't very accessible. And there's also a lot more people on social media who are kind of continuing that toxic masculinity stereotype.
These social norms create long-term issues that discourage healthy living in habits, exercise, and diet. The genetic composition of men creates a more vulnerable host for conditions, diseases, and injuries to develop. This can range from irregular blood pressure to depression to cancer. It is well known that men have had the upper hand in society where they could vote, have free to pay, have respect, and have a voice. However, does the patriarch really benefit them?
Studies show that women outlive men by an average of 5 years, and the greater majority of people in prison who are homeless and are victims of violent crime are men. And the ratio of men pursuing higher education after high school is actually dropping, and almost 75% of Canadian suicides every year are men. So today we will have a roundtable discussion, joined by our special guest Marcus, who is actually a current second-year student at the University of Guelph, and we're hoping for him to offer a unique perspective as a young male in today's society, which continues to have more awareness spread on men's mental health. So to see, his thoughts and opinions on certain matters.
So typically, when I usually think of the word toxic masculinity or just that phrase, even usually thinking of things like mental and the physical toughness of a man, and someone who is acting very stoic or not really displaying that many sorts of emotions or feelings and things like that.
Hmm.
Also, the self-sufficiency of men and the emotional insensitivity that sometimes we may show. We don't like to show, uh, you know, exactly how we're feeling or displaying what's truly going on, or even sharing that amongst our closest peers, our friends, family, or even admitting that to ourselves. Usually when I'm thinking of that, uh, I would kind of think towards, the idea that men can feel free and open enough to talk to certain people about it. It doesn't have to be to a wide group or wide variety of people, but as long as they have that core group or individual, even like to talk to about what they're going through, their own walks of life and how their perspective is, I think that's very healthy. To be able to even rely on mentors or people who they look up to, such as even female, like you can get that female perspective of how we as men are, because they also have opinions on the way we're acting and the way we see ourselves. And I guess you can kind of mold the two together to kind of come to a general consensus. And also, kind of doing some research about this, and even just from my own kind of experiences, kind of feeling that our feelings are valid in certain aspects, that I think men, especially now in our like society now, can feel like, okay, maybe this doesn't really matter. I shouldn't really be talking about this. It's not for anyone else to really
Mm.
see, or things like that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And to also be vulnerable enough to discuss that with someone, I think that shows a lot of bravery, and it
For
shows that
sure.
you're willing and able to seek help if necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely super, super, brave for men to take that extra step, especially with all of, these stereotypes and, the toxicity of a lot of, masculinity that's out there, that kind of goes against them. So it does take a lot of bravery for men to go out and say, I'm gonna try something different. I'm gonna actually like, look at myself and try to get rid of those, toxic masculine traits and norms, because there's a lot of pressure from peers often to do differently. Like I know tons of younger kids who are in high school, and they like people like Andrew Tate, and because their friends like him, and obviously not a good role model for healthy masculinity, but they're just so in deep with it, and their friends are in deep with it, so it's like it takes a lot of bravery for them to know what's right and wrong, and to get into those practices. And then with the female perspective, that as well, like it's important for females to be supportive, for everybody else to be supportive of men going through this, because I know a lot of girls as well who might look down upon a man who's trying to be masculine in a healthy way, because a lot of women do tend to also be pushy with the toxic masculinity stereotype and support it, which we shouldn't, right? We have to be supportive of men as well. But moving on
For
to a kind
sure.
of other broad topic when it comes to support and roles in society, which I guess kind of ties in with like the female expectations and whatnot. So dating back to the 7th century, the Bible was written, and as time progressed, the Bible said that there are 11 responsibilities of a man. So to be accountable, be a father, not provoke children, love God, teach, honor, and provide for the family, treat the wife with honor, etc. So let's kind of explore how these notions factor into a man's role in society, right? So, I mean, Marcus, like, what are the family and financial and self expectations of men? Being a man yourself, how do you think society views this?
Even just around like my friends and family, I can definitely see that there is more of a lean towards men, being that top provider opposed to the women either being equal or even above the man, earning more, things like that. And honestly, that part shouldn't be an issue of anything of the sorts just by uh from my point of view. But even about the financial and the self expectations, I think men should be able to, be able to provide for their family. It's would I don't know exactly how to describe it in a sort of way, but it's kind of like touching on gender roles, I feel like a little bit. So how men, some people are saying, or even how men shouldn't, or sorry, how men don't really do household chores or things like that, and they shouldn't have to, you know, do all this work at home because they do all this work outside of home, if that kind of makes sense. They shouldn't have to come back and continue to do all this work. That's, supposed to be a woman's job, and that's supposed to be someone else's job, not for them. And I don't really agree with that in that aspect. I think that men and women should have the equal standpoints in terms of working, getting that opportunity to go to work and provide for your family, and then come home and still provide. And it's almost like a constant job. I don't think it like something that turns off or anything like that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, definitely. And so it's important that as a collective, there's more awareness spread that this is something that is very possible for men not to only have the pressure of getting a job and providing for a family, but to know that, women can do the exact same, and just how women can have a more bigger role in the household, so can men. Like it's not a cookie cutter arrangement that needs to be like that all the time. And taking away that pressure for men to know to feel that they have to do some, a certain thing in life, like they don't. Like as long as you
Hmm.
have goals, and as long as you're doing something, and when it comes to like a family unit, that's important. It doesn't have to specifically be providing financially, right? I mean, Kelson, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I definitely agree with what you guys said and mentioned. I think those are all correct. True.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like it just
If I
makes,
could just, oh,
yeah, go
sorry.
ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to that. Like, I think men often think that they have to get a certain type of job in order to make this amount of pay in
Mm,
order to provide for their family. And I think that even in my generation now, I even thought about this. Maybe I had to get this job so, and I wouldn't be able to follow like a certain career path or things like that. I couldn't go for certain dreams or things that I wanted in life. And I feel like a lot of people, even women and men alike, are thinking that way instead of going for what they truly want to make them happy. And I guess further down the line, it kind of goes into something where you're not really happy with a job that you have and that role that you really have, right? So it doesn't really feel like you're contributing
mhm.
enough or as much.
Yeah, that's a good
Mhm.
point. Because, like, when men have that one goal to provide for the family, they're going to look at the jobs that make that money in the evolving economy, whether that's being an engineer or a doctor. And they're not thinking about what they like. And that's why I know a lot of guys around our age who are struggling in school right now because they had that one goal in mind and it's not what they like, it's not what they're good at, but they just have the goal of making money and
Hmm.
it's not working because you have to think about your interests. So it's important for men to first of all think about their interests and have different goals in life, not just to provide for your family. And that's what this topic is all about, right? And also just knowing to provide for yourself is the big thing because a lot of guys can't even provide for themselves or are living at their parents' house at age 25, 30, 40, 50. Like for before you think of a family, think about yourself.
Yeah, I know. And like having that interest is going to make you so much more happier than sticking with
Mhm.
something you don't really like or enjoy
Hmm.
doing. So I
Mhm.
think it's important to have an interest and develop an interest over time because, like, in some ways, people change their mind back and forth. But again, if it's not what you like, then it won't make you happy.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's okay for you to veer off into different paths. For some people, it's not just one set thing that they're meant to do. It's a bunch of things together that makes them who they are and what they strive to work for.
Hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so that's why it's important for men to know not to look at one thing, but go with your interests. And I mean, this applies to anybody as well, like because you're not going to do good at something unless you enjoy doing it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, good stuff there. And the last thing we want to kind of touch on here is the entire basis of this, which is just men's mental health, right? And how everything comes down to how it impacts, men's mental health, right? And it's often suppressed, right? And then manifested through anger and aggression, which is actually a norm for a lot of people. Guys are so violent, like because they can't deal with their emotions properly. And I've seen this so many times. And although it's not seen as an issue unless it's displayed, they're labeled as being a bad person, right? But at the end of the day, a lot of guys just don't know how to deal with their emotions, and then that also gets back to the suicide rates being so high as well, right?
I feel like men feel like there's not enough either resources or support, maybe in that aspect, or I think it also comes down to pride as well, because
Mm.
men tend to think, okay, I shouldn't be sharing my problems with anyone else. Uh, got to make you kind of like put up a front to show people, I'm fine. Like nothing's going on. Like behind the scenes, everything's fine. And that's kind of the term that I feel gets used a lot. No, 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 I'm fine. Everything's fine. Just don't worry about it. Things like that. They tend to say that to loved ones to try and convince them that, no, nothing's going on. You don't need to worry about me. And I feel like it is correlated with the social norms of right now with these increased mental health issues, such as like stress, depression, or like even psychological problems that can come into play by doing that. And I feel like if men had had more of a comfort in order to have those tough conversations with other people, it would kind of relieve some of that pressure off their shoulders. Because I know I've gone through things like this before, and you never know what's waiting for you on the other side, and you're just thinking, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. I don't know who I can talk to. I don't know if I want to talk to anyone. And you just don't really know how to handle it, right? But you got to make sure there are sets of people, organizations, support groups that are out there that I feel like aren't being used enough in order to support the men's mental health and that stigma behind it.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a lot to unpack. Like all super valid because it's just important that yeah, men realize that they don't have to bottle everything up. Like, a lot of to add like a lot of men, like I have spoken to some guy friends and when it comes to this, they feel like if they, open up, if they share their emotions with somebody, they cry with somebody, it makes them less of a man. And
Or
to
seen as
that,
weak.
it's weak. Yeah. And it's like, it's so sad that that's how they feel. And that's what all these societal norms have, made them think. And because it absolutely doesn't like clear,
Yeah.
like, but they have that feeling that, they're weak. And it's just important for men to know, like, emotions make you human. They don't make you weak. They make you,
Yeah, and like at the end of the day, we're all humans, so it's okay to have emotions and like it's okay to be feeling a sort of way because everyone feels that way and you're not alone. Like everyone feels it. So, and
Yeah,
there's so
no
many
one's
ways to, yeah,
yeah.
like
no one's
there's so many
immune to
ways you,
feeling it.
Mhm, mhm. And there's just so many ways to cope with it, like either talking to a friend or, seeing someone. Just there's just so many ways you can, talk out those feelings that you have.
Yeah. And like if a lot of guy friends also have friends that are consumed by toxic masculinity, so that's how another reason they feel that way, because if they go to those friends they may like make fun of them or something. Well, you've also got to
Mhm.
think about who your friends are, right? If
Exactly.
you've
Like,
got
are
friends,
those your friends? Yeah, they
yeah.
are those your friends if they're gonna be making fun of you? Like, a
Hmm.
real friend wouldn't do that to you. If, they
Hmm.
would be there, sit next to you, and like listen to all your problems and help you come up with solutions to them.
That's like your true friends will be there for you and understand what you're going through
Yeah.
is valid. It is important. Nothing that can just
Mm.
be tossed on the back burner and not being looked after or anything like that. It's something that it's like a pressing issue that can be dealt with properly and can have support with.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, because like at the end of the day, if you're not okay, it's just gonna affect someone else and make someone else's day sad. Like, they can't get through it because when they see you all sad, bottled up with all these emotions, they're gonna be thinking about it and they're gonna be talking about their own problems and it just creates more barriers.
Mhm.
Yeah. So overall, it's just important for men to learn like how to deal with these emotions, knowing they can go to their good friends, good family members, whoever. They can, get counseling. That's fine as well. Perfectly healthy.
Yeah.
You can, writing down your emotions, going to like
Journaling.
Mhm.
journaling. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
journaling.
Or even just saying it aloud to yourself. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be in front of anyone else. Just say aloud what you're feeling, because that's also like a way of getting it off your chest, literally, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know
And
some people like listening to music too. It just helps
mm-hmm.
them.
Yeah,
Hmm.
So,
listening to music, going to the gym, getting your
yeah, go
aggression
out to
out in the
gym.
gym, so that so that all these healthy ways can help, and we make sure it doesn't lead to anything, as we've
Hmm.
seen in
For
many,
sure.
yeah, in many other
Just
cases.
beneficial outlets to help you get through it.
Yeah.
Uh, Honestly, just talking about how you feel. I think that can be like step one on how are you really doing. And there's a lot of people who would just give the standard, oh, I'm good. But you got to go deeper than that. Like, how are you truly feeling right now during the day? That's like at least once a day. I found like just asking that to myself even privately, just acknowledging your own feelings and knowing that they're there actually does wonders for you. And it's done wonders for me just doing that in private or even just addressing someone over a text message or a basic phone call, anything like that. Just opening up that conversation like that would honestly, I think could help anyone.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like setting up spaces where men can talk about their emotions without being told, too manly, or like, just having their emotions validated. Like it's okay to be feeling that way and just have all these feelings
Hmm.
without having them bottled up.
Yeah, like maybe we have a ton of clubs on campus. I know at U of T, I'm sure Guelph has a lot of them as well. But
Hmm.
maybe if someone started up a club where it's like, for the boys, whatever, but where you guys just sit there and talk, right? Or because there's tons of stuff that guys as friends will do other than talk, but like just talk about how you're feeling at the current time, just be there to support each other. And even just looking out, what women can do is looking out for your guy friends, looking out for your male relatives, whatever, right? And just continuing to spread those positive stereotypes, positive ways of dealing with emotions and of being, right? That's so important. And having these conversations really good as well, spreading that
Yeah.
awareness and getting it going, getting those conversations going so that we can see them more, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. You guys want to add anything else?
Uh, Pretty sure we touched on everything on my end.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
pretty
good.
spectrum.
Cool, cool. But I mean, one thing we can take away from this is it's vital to spread awareness on men's health, right? Men and women, right, can create change, spending time with loved ones, talking, being aware of the statistics and getting regular doctor checkups, going to
Mhm.
therapy, whatever you need to stay healthy. And even exercising as well, right? Whatever helps you to be healthy
Yeah.
and break away from toxic stereotypes, right? Um, but yeah, and I mean, today we just wanted to thank Marcus for joining us, doing this amazing conversation. And it was
Yeah,
Thank you for having me.
thank you for listening to Speak. Visit www.championsofchangeutm.com and follow our social media pages to keep up to date with our upcoming initiatives and to learn how you can be the change that your community needs to see. Until next time, remember to use your voice.